All right, hello. I'm Paul Worthell, and I'm joined by Ken, Dan, Ian, and Jen, and we're talking about trends in marketing that you probably should be aware of. A lot of these things aren't groundbreaking or new; they've been around for a while, but they haven't necessarily been used or implemented, or especially by small businesses. Some of the bigger companies are, and it's things that I don't think can really be ignored anymore. So, Ken, I'm going to start with you. We've talked previous podcasts a lot about mobile first indexing and automation and how important they are even for small businesses now. But what about voice search? Search Engine Watch did a survey that 21% of people that responded used voice search on a weekly basis, and social media today found that almost 50% of people use voice search when searching for products. So is this something small businesses need to prepare for?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's going to vary based on the nature of the business, right? I mean, so if you're a roofer or a plumber, yeah, plumber is probably more relevant actually than a roofer. But I mean, if you're especially if you're where somebody's going to go to your place of business, like, it's going to be, hey Siri, tell me a restaurant. I want to know about Mexican restaurants near me. If you're a Mexican restaurant, you better make sure that you've been paying attention to showing up in voice search like that. And voice search has started to change the search phrases that people need to be found for because it's more conversational. People are asking a lot more questions. So it's a whole new set of search phrases that you need to think about ranking your business for. So not every business is going to be the same. But if you're a place of business that somebody's going to go to, especially when it's very common, for a dentist or a chiropractor or a restaurant or, some kind of a business like that, where they're looking for something that's close to where they're currently located, especially if it's from the phone is going to know where they're at, and it's going to pull back those results, those near me results. It's going to be really critical. If you serve a big, broad area or you're in a real competitive market, voice search is going to be harder to get in, first of all. But the way I would look at it is make sure you've got your Google My Business page optimized. Make sure that you're getting in the Google 3-pack when you can, which means that reviews and reputation management are super critical. And then, you also want to try to get into the knowledge panel, so that when somebody does a search, and they, for whatever phrase they're looking at, and this is where, other businesses can start to find an opportunity for voice searches. A roofer could try to answer a question that somebody might ask and try to win that knowledge panel, which is going to show up at the very top search results. And it's going to give you the answer to the question that you ask. And it's going to be that first result or that first series of results. If you can get in there, then you're going to improve your opportunity for voice search. So, fundamentally, it's not going to go away. It's only becoming more common. As cars get enabled, for voice search, integrated in with Apple CarPlay or Google's equivalent, or whatever else might come from an individual auto manufacturer. Obviously having the various devices from Amazon, Cortana with Microsoft, Google has voice search, Amazon, Apple, they all have devices. I've got an Apple Watch on, so and I have my phone. So if I don't have my phone, I've got an Apple Watch. So I literally have the ability to ask a question at any point in time from my watch to find something that I need. So yeah, it's becoming super important.
Yeah, and if we don't have enough algorithms to deal with, the voice search is a completely different Google algorithm.
Yeah, absolutely. It's critical that you make sure your business information is correct. You
Yes, and
know,
the
uh,
search results return with voice search are different.
yeah,
So, Ian, Google Analytics, it's been the go-to platform for seems like forever for website data, SEO insights, among other things. But marketing is changing, and there's new channels that analytics doesn't necessarily collect data on or not very well. So should small businesses consider a paid option or even move into some type of business intelligence platform, or is it too soon for that for smaller local businesses?
Great question. First of all, Paul, I get warm and fuzzy inside when we talk about Google Analytics. It's
That's
one
why
of
I asked
my
you that question.
it's one of my favorite tools. And just so you know, Google Analytics 4.0 just came out and it's radically different. So just in
Yes,
case
it is.
you get upgraded or you click on the button to get upgraded, it's going to look very different.
Even though it's in beta, they will upgrade you, whether you
They
want to or
will.
not.
Yeah. So I kind of have a motto about tools, and this is going to be the long way of answering your question. First, don't let the tool dictate the metrics. Second, let your goals guide you. So it's actually the reason I'm kind of taking this circuitous route is that your goals and what you need to track in order to understand if you're being successful in reaching those goals is actually what should dictate what tool you use. And if Google Analytics isn't giving you those metrics that you need to understand your success, then you should be looking for another tool. Or, the way we look at reporting tools is actually, I don't know if this is a new term that I'm right here, folks. This is it. I'm launching a new term. I actually call it like metrics layering. So, for instance, if you're a small business, you have a website, all you care about at this point is how many visitors are coming to your website. Google Analytics is going to give you that, and it's also going to tell you where they're coming from. So that's fantastic. That's all you need at that point. And then there's this other term we use, especially in the duct tape world. It's called the marketing maturity model. As your business matures and gets more complex, and the things you need to track get more complex, and the marketing you do gets more complex, you probably need more complex analytics tools. So my long answer is it depends. My short answer is don't give up on Google Analytics. It's a fantastic tool. We still use it as a very key piece in our reporting for clients because it's very good at what it does. Having said that, when we get into more complex things, we're using all these different layers of reporting from different tools that provide the best type of reports on what we're trying to track. And we use those, for clients. So for instance, Google Ads, even though we have a glimpse of what's happening in advertising within Google Analytics, that's not our predominant advertising reporting platform because it doesn't give us the best data. Does that answer the question, Paul?
It does. It's a good answer. I agree that if use the tool that gives you what you need. If all you need is analytics, use analytics.
It was funny when you started speaking, Ian, and you said I had a mantra about tools, and I was going to say, what is that? Buy them all?
Well, I do look for opportunities to buy more tools. Don't get me wrong, especially like if you have a home improvement project. It's like, well, honey, I actually need this newfangled laser guided saw in order to accomplish that cut. So, what's another $400 for one piece of wood that needs to be cut? But yeah.
So can I ask kind of a contrarian question, maybe? And that is, how important do you think it is to not be deceived by the reporting suite that somebody offers you, versus what you really need? I don't know if I'm asking that right, if that makes sense.
I think I know where you're going. So let me rephrase it and echo it back, and you can let me know if I'm connecting with what you're saying. So one of the things when we're taking over SEO or ad accounts from previous agencies and we take on a new client, we get a glimpse into the reporting that the previous agencies were providing. And one of the things we see, especially in the SEO world, is horrible SEO reporting where they give, here's 100 keywords that you are ranking number 1 for. And then we look through those keywords and we're like, hey, that's fantastic that you're ranking number 1 for these. But if you actually look in Google if you actually look at the search volume of those terms, it's 0. Mm-hmm. So what's so good about ranking number 1 for a keyword that gets 0 volume and will not grow your business? So that's an example of what I think you're saying, Ken.
Yeah.
Is that, yeah. So
Yeah, I mean, I would just piggyback on that and say, there's a lot of firms out there that are really good at uncovering that kind of information without any context. And they might say that and say, oh, well, look at this. You're ranking for this and this and this, which is great if that's all we cared about. But without the context of, well, who is clicking on that? Who is coming to the pages we want? If we don't have that context to connect the dots, then how good is the reporting really? And how good is that SEO strategy?
Yeah, and don't decide to make a marketing investment based on how pretty a tool set looks, because it may not be the right stuff to measure and track.
Well, and quite frankly, the clients we work with, they and the reason I'm responding in this way, so that we don't provide them with access to the reporting tools usually. The reason for that is we've actually done tests over the years where we've offered up to the minute dashboards for them. We've offered them access to the different reporting tools. Bar none, none of them actually use them. None of them. They maybe use them for like the first month because it was a curiosity. It opens up lots of interesting questions with the client usually, like because they're educating themselves on the tools. But really, our job and the job of a business owner is to actually understand, if I'm investing in marketing strategy X, what is it producing? And the reporting, the job of the reporting, the only job of the reporting should be to say, how are you getting from marketing strategy X to the goal you're trying to achieve? Truthfully, big data is everywhere. You can immerse yourself into tons and tons of data and get lost in it. I do. I'm so curious. I love following the threads and going, why is this, keyword not ranking? Let's tug on that. And it takes you down another rabbit trail. I am the worst at that, but it's also a strength. But I would say most business owners should not be into the big data stuff because it only distracts them from what they should be doing, and that's running a great business.
Yeah, that's a good point, Ian. Is it you have to understand how whatever platform you use, how it's parsing and presenting the data. If you don't understand that, you can come to a lot of incorrect conclusions.
Yeah, I mean, Ken's question is a great one, though, which it opens up kind of a can of worms. And that's how, like, as a business owner, how do you actually choose a marketer or a marketing agency or a marketing consultant or a service provider that like there's a lot of trust, right? How do you know the flashy reports that they show in their sales sheets are actually what you need? And so I think we talked about this previously, like how not to choose a bad agency last week. And I think that's part of it is you really need to dig in, like, if this is my goal, Mr. Marketer, Mrs. Marketer, Miss Marketer, how do you get me there? And what reporting do you give me along the way? Because that's the key. And if they can't answer that question, if it sounds like smoke, then it's probably smoke. And run away.
Don't walk, run.
Well, and I would simply say to that, you can get the reporting, you can get the methodology, you can get a lot of things. You still have to factor in what the relationship is going to feel like at the end of the day. I don't care what their reporting is as far as, that's all important. It is. But I'm hiring Ian because of Ian. And I'm hiring Dan or Jen or Ken because of those people. Not because they are, amazing. They have this amazing tool set. Or perhaps even the strategy they have. I think that always has to be a factor in there. People just don't like to say it because it sounds like, oh, I hired a person because I like them. Oh my gosh, that doesn't sound very official, but it happens, and I think that always has to play in.
Jen, in today's marketing
as the tumbleweed, I'll be here all week, everybody. Yeah.
We're like,
running out of time. We have upsells, downsells, checkout bumps. What are these things? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I sure can. So those are, so if you've ever bought anything online, let's talk, say, probably in the last year, each of us have gone to, say, an online seminar. So you go through the checkout and you're ready to buy your seat for the online seminar. So what would be an example of an upsell is you go through, you're going to buy your seat, right? Your virtual seat. An upsell could be, hey, for $25 to $30 more, do you want to get access to the recordings and the slides that are going to be presented in this conference? So that would be an upsell. A downsell could be when you are you might be stalling on the page in order to buy your seat for the online conference, and say you've clicked through to VIP and you're sitting there and you haven't pressed submit to enter your credit card, and you haven't continued on with the transaction. A pop-up could come up and say, hey, we do have these other levels, and they could be levels that are below the VIP level. So if you're sitting there and contemplating, oh, do I really want to spend this money? There's the opportunity that they can give you an offer that costs less money, but they're trying to get the sale. And then a checkout bump is right at the end before you're ready to hit, I'm going to buy this. There may be other offers of get your name on the wait list for, VIP section in our upcoming conference next month, secure here for only $5. So you're already ready to purchase, you're ready to go, and it's another offer. So those things happen when you're buying either a product or a service, or it could be a subscription online, but it happens when you're ready to buy.
And is there anything we missed there?
I don't know. Is there? What did I miss?
I'm just asking. If I missed it, if there's any upsells, downsells, checkout bumps, just
no. I think okay. So just in keeping with our audience, keeping it pretty simple. I mean, these things can get pretty complex, but for your average small business, if you've never heard of this before, to get your head around it, most offers could either be upsold or downsold. I mean, you can get pretty complicated with that, but it's kind of like, if you want to get your head around what's it like in real life, it's kind of like going to a fast food restaurant. Do you want fries with that, right? Just, you've already decided to make a purchase. They're trying to upsell you on additional products.
And yeah, I mean, it's easier to talk about it when it's like an online purchase, but the same concept applies regardless of what you sell. You have the ability to do the upsell, downsell, the bump offer, things like that. So, one way to think about this is, as a business owner, when you're selling something, digital marketer uses the phrase profit multiplier. And what it means is, when somebody is really willing to make that initial purchase, you can increase your profit because you don't have to go out and spend the effort and the cost to acquire a brand new customer. And so you're actually getting a lot more of that profit coming to you because you didn't have to take part of the profit that's been siphoned off to acquire a brand new customer.
Okay, so Dan, here's a question.
Yes.
In the past, a lot of businesses had a distinguishing feature that would set them apart from their competition. Could have been some kind of product feature, technological advantage that their competitors didn't have, but that's kind of been leveled, that playing field, in the digital world. And because it's easy to copy a marketing strategy or a funnel or a workflow, but so how are businesses going to set themselves apart now?
I think it's something that, to something I said a little earlier, frankly. I think businesses are really good at stating their services and their laundry list of services and their funnels and their methodologies, and we have a proprietary approach and blah, 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 blah. People hire Dan Gershenson because it's Dan Gershenson, period, full stop. That's not, and Dan has this other stuff. And the reason I say that is not to be egotistical about it whatsoever, but rather to say, we do not give ourselves nearly enough credit for the fact that humans hire other humans first. And then it's what those humans bring with them after the fact. And this goes for power partners, strategic partners you might have. I'm giving a presentation tomorrow on this. And one of the points I'm making is, you cannot be power partners with somebody who's kind of a good person who complements what you do. It ain't going to work. Not in the way I'm saying. because it's, if you don't like that person, if it's kind of a fit, don't do it, because that person is going to be in a strategic relationship, is going to be someone that you talk to every month, and preferably twice a month if they're a true strategic partner and referral partner. And people go, oh, Dan, that sounds like a lot. Well, I don't think it is. If you're serious about helping each other and doing some packages together, perhaps, then you better get comfortable with that real quick. Otherwise, I don't think you have a strategic partner at all. I think you got somebody who's kind of like, I'll keep my eyes open for you, like that, which is like the biggest line of BS in the business world, period. So I think you have to remember that the consultant in you is the differentiator as far as your approach, your tone, and really looking out for that person, that client. Because they don't hire robots. We're not robots. We're people who have a certain amount of care, and all assumptions being that we all know what we're talking about. We all bring a certain methodology that probably works well. We've done this for a long time. But the differentiator is going to be, how do I like working with this person on an ongoing basis? Do I feel like they're really looking out for me, or do I feel like they're trying to sell me something that's new and hot? Because a lot of people do that. A lot of people do the, hey, this is the new thing, you should do more video because everybody's doing it. And that's, I don't do that. I don't think the other people on this call do that. And people appreciate that, and they notice that difference. And starting with a blank slate, I don't care if you're a marketing person, accountant, whatever you are, starting with a blank slate and saying, we're going to do strategy first, number one, and we're going to talk about that versus what we think you should, what we recommend you do, like right off the bat, or tactics right off the bat, or trends or things like that. Certainly not tools. Like any of that other stuff, I don't think that's like a difference maker. And the other thing that I think is going to happen really soon, if it hasn't happened already, is we're going to have to stop thinking of ourselves as marketing consultants. And that's kind of a mind-blowing thing. Not in a way of we'll call ourselves marketing consultants, but we're going to be business consultants more than we believe we should be, because we're going to have to, even now, I walk into businesses and their problems are not marketing only. They are operational, they are leadership, they are customer service, they are sales, they are technology, and we are going to have to bring those people in fast, maybe even before ourselves. And the ones who are just, well, I'm a marketing consultant, that's my thing, I can't touch that. You're going to have a rude awakening if you don't start thinking around those thoughts for what you, not in the way of I do that, but in terms of who you bring in sooner than you ever have before, so that you are really doing a good job when it comes to your part of the world.
I've got to jump in. I love what you're saying, Dan, but at the same time, people have to find out about you first. And, SEO is all about differentiation. So, you can copy and paste, and you can, mimic and, imitate as many people as you want. But fundamentally, if you don't talk about the problems you solve for your customers, in a language, where you've got empathy and authority to help, guide them to the point where you're bringing them to the outcome that they want. If they don't get to that through that part first before they even have a conversation with you, all of the connection that they have with you as a person isn't going to make any difference. And when you also take that and you apply that to SEO, or even using that kind of language to put on your website, Paul, I still think there is massive opportunity, because 90% of the businesses do not do that. They don't talk about the problems they solve. There is so much opportunity, and it's more important now than it's ever been for differentiation, clarity of message, and focusing on the problems that you solve.
Oh, I don't disagree with that. I drink that
Oh, no.
Kool-Aid
Yeah.
every day of my life.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I don't disagree with that one bit. I think you're going to find out pretty quickly. Let's say in the website of yes, I totally agree. You got to talk about the problems you solve in a very human language and not just what you do.
Yeah.
No question.
Yeah.
But when you even as early as the discovery meeting, the very first meeting you have with somebody, I think the separator is going to be that kind of empathy you're speaking of then carrying it on into that meeting, because I don't think people get hired from the website. I think the website does a massively awesome job of being a good leader and of a lead into the sale. But I
Well, it
don't think
often
people.
just make sure that you're at the table.
Yeah, it does. It does. But I don't think it closes it. I don't think it converts
I'm
it.
not saying that, but
Yeah. So I mean,
but it
it
can
goes
be a
hand
good
in hand.
qualifier.
Yeah. It's a good qualifier, but I think what really closes it, what really converts it, at the end of the day, it's going to be that person who then says, okay, I'm going to carry what I just said on that website and the tone and manner and approach of the empathy into the discovery meeting. And that is what is going to close, I think, some relationships. And that will be the difference maker 10 out of 10 times. Because I know we've seen this before. Sometimes what's said on a website isn't what you get in the discovery meeting. And that disconnect is going to be, pretty apparent. So if you want to distance yourself, bring that all the way through, especially in that very beginning part where you're in the trust and try phase. It's so important.
Well, Ken, I'm going to start this one with I'm not saying email is dead. But there's some research that shows that click-through rates on marketing emails have dropped by about 10%, but chatbots have taken off. So what would you say to someone that is hesitant to use chatbots for whatever reason?
Well, I'm going to first start by talking about people who might be hesitant about using email marketing. Look, just because these stats say that they've dropped by 10%, you've got to realize that there are multiple uses of email. There's transactional. There are the marketing messages. There are the stay on top of messages of like marketing newsletters where you're providing value in advance. You're helping people, understand and maybe define a problem or giving them some ideas about how they can solve the problem, where they're not even asked to engage with you. So there are a lot of different uses of email. When we look at what happened with the pandemic, the businesses that tended to do really well are businesses that had customer lists that they could reach back out to, especially those businesses that were really challenged economically because of COVID shutdowns. If they had the ability to reach back out to their existing customers and get them to come back in and say, hey, you know what, we are open. We had to change our business. You can't come in and dine anymore, but you can carry out, or gyms or spas or whoever you're dealing with. Email marketing is absolutely a fundamentally critical source. And when you look at the hierarchy of engagement and response, let's talk about chatbots. So chatbots are usually automated messages. They're frequently people oftentimes are using like a Facebook chatbot where you're building logic, or it could be a chatbot where you enter questions and get an automated response back to provide that first level of customer service. That's all fine and dandy, but if you're really wanting to build a relationship and improve your engagement, your open rates, that I would say instead of a chat bot like that, you want to initiate a two-way SMS conversation, because SMS conversations perform five times better than social media or email. Email consistently outperforms social media. So if I had my pick of what I would do, I'd focus on, if it's appropriate to the business. Not every business fits the text message modeling, the text message marketing model. But if it does, text message marketing, number one. 93% of all text messages are opened and read within like the first 3 to 5 minutes. 40% of all links included in a text message are clicked. When I'm talking about these texts where you've opted in to a business saying, yeah, I want to get this information. So it performs exceptionally well. And you don't have to compete with that stream of information like you do on a social media feed, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Instagram. It's like a river flowing by you. And it's a lot of times it's kind of pure circumstance and luck that you catch somebody as they're kind of drifting past that part of the river. Email marketing gives you a more direct channel, and so you can have conversations with somebody via chatbots. They're not all automated. It could take you through an automated process, turn you over, and deliver you to a live agent. That's very common. But the reality is, we're seeing massive shifts in the way most businesses are doing business these days. Marketing automation is becoming a really critical component of that. And doing smart automations, whether it's text message marketing, whether it's chatbots, whether it's building email responders and nurture sequences, what are channels that we're not even talking about today. You've got to be prepared to do it. Pick the one that works the best for your business, and go with it. And right now, I think for most businesses, that's going to be having the ability to text enable your website so that you can start a two-way SMS conversation.
And if I can just jump in, Ken.
No.
One of the come on, Paul. That must have been like a chatbot right there saying no. I just wanted to make it really clear. One of the really misunderstood things about email marketing is, first of all, our own perceptions that can keep us from investing in something that works. The second is those stats can be really, really misleading because you're not always comparing apples to apples. So if I'm a local business and I email consumers who have actually started, they initiated the conversation somehow. They came in, they bought something from me, they're a patient of mine, whatever it is. They get their car fixed at my mechanic bay. Whatever it is, they've initiated the relationship, the conversation. Email is super powerful, and those open rates are way higher than what that stat says, because that stat is like a global stat. And if anybody has email who's listening to this conversation, and I'm sure each of us does, I get a gazillion stupid emails, usually from marketers, who are, and it's always from a Gmail account, and they are saying, you need this because of this reason. And we all get those. And those are email campaigns that they're sending out. And those are involved in those giant stats, as well as huge e-commerce businesses that are sending out mass emails. So just remember that, like, compare apples to apples, local business to local business.
That's a great point, Ian. First of all, if you get an email from somebody who sends it to you from a non-domain specific email, like it doesn't have a business name in that email, and I'm not talking about Google or, if you get an email from somebody with a Gmail address or a yahoo.com or whatever, don't trust it.
Unless it's your mom.
Yeah.
Yes.
If it's a marketing email where they're trying to sell you something, you should not trust those. You want to look at a domain specific email, and businesses out there, this is a little bit off topic, but you got me on my soapbox now, Ian. Businesses need to use a professional email. Do not use a Gmail to communicate with your customers. It just doesn't look professional. And a lot of people don't trust those emails anymore because there are a lot of bad things that are happening right now in the world of cybersecurity and breaches and things like that. And anybody who's becoming more and more sophisticated users of these platforms, including email, they're going to stop trusting emails that don't look like they're from real people, or they're from a personal email address when you're trying to do business. That's just not a smart thing to do.
Yeah, and depending on how you're sending that email, I won't get into the technical aspects of that, but using whether it's Gmail, Hotmail, Yahoo, depending on how you're sending that, it can be a surefire way to be immediately dumped into the junk folder.
Well, and if you're sending emails to people who have those types of emails, you're also asking for trouble from your email service provider, because the likelihood of people marking those as spam is incredibly high, or the bounce rate is incredibly high, because a lot of those emails are just throwaway emails. So if you're sending emails and creating email marketing campaigns, you need to pay attention to make sure that a lot of those emails really are valid.
Definitely. So, Ian, we've talked a lot in the past about automation, granted, but there's still a lot of people, a lot of businesses that aren't leveraging automation and what it can do for them. And personally, I don't see how you can really do business this day and age without taking advantage of some kind of automation. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the previous when I had mentioned the marketing maturity model. I think that's the key. I don't think every business needs automation. I think most businesses can benefit from automation because there's a lot of great things that it does to help nurture relationships. Because even though it's automated, you're building it out from the customer journey standpoint. That's kind of the key. But I really do think you have to look at where your business is, what you're trying to achieve, and where you should invest your marketing dollars that will give you the best return on investment. So for some businesses, that's going to be building their website, right? If they don't have a website, they need property on the internet in order to send people to get found, and it might be ads, right? There's, I'm not going to walk you through the whole marketing maturity model because it's quite in depth, but that's the job of your marketing gal or guy, is to help you really understand, what are the goals for the business? Where are you in your maturity? Where does automation sit in that process? Because again, it is a fantastic way of presenting the right message at the right time to the right people, and that makes marketing so powerful.
I will say that not all automations have to be big and elaborate, and I know we've talked about this before as well, about speed of response and the ability for it to, how important it comes into play in helping you actually close a deal. So I mean, even a simple automation where if somebody fills out a form on your website, you have an autoresponder to, one, let them know that you got that email, and two, give them an opportunity to take the next step. If it makes sense for them to book a time on your calendar, go ahead and do that. Or at least say, we're sorry, we're really busy, but somebody from our team, and make sure that you can live up to the promise that you're going to say, but somebody from your team is going to get back to you within 48 hours or 24 hours or whatever time frame makes sense. But that's an automation. So I mean, don't think that you have to build out these big elaborate campaigns to move people through elaborate customer journeys to help them make a decision.
And I think, one of the things that I would say is that they probably need some guidance about where to automate and where not to, because there are definite places that you should not be doing automation at all. I was just saying this a few days ago to somebody. There are plenty of tools that can, for example, connect you to people on LinkedIn and be automated. Don't do that. Like, if you want to be banned, that's a good way to go. Like, that's a great way to go against LinkedIn's terms of service and start doing automations and connecting to 2,000 people, and then you will be banned next month. So that's not the kind of things out there. And there are things out there that I think, just they sound great. They sound like really good. Oh, isn't that attractive? But you have to understand that maybe that's not number one, maybe that's not even something that is accepted on a certain website's terms of service, number one. And number two, maybe you have to look at why you're doing this automation. Do you need to connect to that many people in an automatic way all the time? Many times what I hear about automation is, Well, I think it's great when you're doing something at scale and trying to connect to 20,000 people or something and have all these automated responses. But maybe what you want to do sometimes is look at 50 people and say, how can I make this a little more of a manual connection? Because quite frankly, and I'm going to use LinkedIn again, it's not going to work if it's automated. I mean, your messages to people, even after you connect, that are automated, they see through that. They're not dumb. They know what's a robot and they know it's not you. And so that is, if anything, is getting oversaturated with automation. And people are sniffing it out. And if it's not human, then the automation will not work. So you just got to know, like, what's the proper part of this buyer's journey? Is it in the very beginning or at the very end? Some kind of trust has to be established first from a human in a manual way.
And it's interesting you brought up the idea of automation in things like LinkedIn, Dan. I mean, when I was thinking through this, like things that immediately come to mind are chatbots, lead nurture flows, right? Where somebody wants a lead magnet, they get the lead magnet. It's a fantastic tool. Then they get an email in an hour saying, what did you think? Or a day or whatever it is. Then in 3 days, they get another kind of follow-up. But the purpose of those, because I hear on one hand we're talking about the technology, but it's just like what you said, it's the buyer's journey that's the most important thing, because it is people, and the automation is simply helping the business owner not have to send out the same emails a gazillion times, but the effect is that Ian gets this fantastic, valuable email saying, hey, you were interested in this. Maybe, let me give you a little bit more information about how it helps your business. But the whole purpose of that email is a call to action that's, let's jump on a call or buy it here, or it's about moving a person to where they actually want to get anyways. And it's helping that process.
Yeah, I think those are a couple of misunderstandings. The automations do not have to be complex. It can be super simple. And it doesn't mean that you don't have at some point, those one-on-one conversations with people. It's not like you're automating everything from beginning to end with no interaction with a real person.
So I'm going to tell you this really stupid thing. So when I was in the corporate world and marketing automation was just taking off, we developed this crazy monster of an automation. But when I was presenting it to the broader executive team, I was trying to make it really simple to understand. And the whole point of the automation was that when somebody is ready to act, they put up their hand, right? And so I don't know if you've ever seen those turkey pop out heat measurement devices. So when the turkey's hot and ready, it pops out, you take it out of the oven, you eat the turkey. So that was my analogy, is that when these people are at the proper temperature and they're ready to act, this thing's going to pop out. And that was the purpose of that automation. And I think a lot of automations are like that, because you want to be able to act when people are ready for that in a personal way, just like you were saying, Dan. So think about that turkey. There's a name for it. I don't, somebody's going to have to, somebody send in a comment about that. What's the turkey thing called?
Yeah.
It's the turkey pop out thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
I even had a graphic for it. It was beautiful.
Well, thank you for that analogy.
Yeah, I thought I'd share that.
Jen, so
Yes.
I think we live in this multi-channel world, businesses, people, marketing, and there's no longer any magic formula or silver bullets. And there's a lot of thought out there that the way to you need to optimize for marginal gains. And some people might refer to this as omni-channel marketing. We've talked about that in the past. I'm kind of looking at it in a different context here. So can you talk about that a little bit, about marginal gains within different platforms?
Yes, I was going to go at this this question from a different angle, actually, but
I don't care what angle you go at it from.
Okay,
it's your answer.
All right, let me go my angle then. Okay, well, Okay, so the thing is, it has been either a trend or it has been. I have seen this somewhat with clients that we have taken on. I have seen this within the broader industry as well. That a small business will say, "Oh, you know what? We only do whether ABC." Because that's the best channel for us, and they swear by it. Whether it's Facebook ads, whether it's direct mail, it's like one thing that they do. And when pressed on that, it has either been the answer of, well, that's what we know works for us well, so why would we stop doing something that works for us? And the other answer, which has come up in the last few years more, is that there's been more and more channels available to market your business on. It's been like, well, I can't do everything everywhere, so we have to, I don't have enough resources to do that, so we're going to focus in on one channel and just make that work for us. The problem with that is, well, there's a number of problems, but the problem with that, if you're going on the social side of things, is, and we've all seen this, whether you're using any of the social media for your business or whether you're using it in your personal life, the algorithms, the platforms, they change. And so the tactics and the things that you do that has got you success up until the algorithm change, you've got to retool and change. And perhaps some of these changes happen that are not beneficial to your business. So then you feel like, oh my goodness, I got to start back from square one. Everything we knew and all, we put all our eggs in one basket for this. So in order to ensure that doesn't happen, the better idea would be to explore and use several different marketing channels in order to get the promotion of your business out there. So you're not dependent on one channel exclusively. And what you're trying to do too is bring everyone back into, either your email list, your address book, your customer list, so you can build the relationship with them. When you talk about marginal gains on each of these channels, is what you're referring to doing just a little bit better on each channel each month, or is there something else that you're going for?
No, that's pretty much what I was thinking of, because I agree with what you said about, if there is one channel that they know works for them, they should definitely invest in that. But that doesn't mean you exclude all the other platforms, because
Exactly.
I think a lot of times businesses get locked into what they would do, and they don't stop and think of what their potential customers would do. If you're an older, I'm going to get myself in trouble here. If you're an older business owner, but your demographic is the 25 somethings, they're going to be on different channels than what you're thinking of. And that's where you need to be. And you need to start using that platform and kind of start optimizing for that. That doesn't mean you throw all your resources into that. But if you start using that platform and going after these marginal gains, and you start to realize that because of your customer demographic, you're getting better returns on that, then start investing some money in it. But if you don't try it in the first place, you'll never know.
That's a really good point, for sure, because I know that there is a lot of hesitation about trying another platform, whether it be from, do we have enough time, do we have enough budget, or I can't get over the hurdle of not liking that channel. But the thing is, I think it's really, really important. I mean, we do this a lot as we're in marketing, but it's really important for the client side to really look at these kind of promotions as let's test and evaluate, and that's got to be the way, because you might miss some great opportunities if you're not considering that.
Can I get super technical?
Yep.
All right.
More technical than me?
If you're fish,
That's saying something.
If you're fishing for fishes, you got to fish where the fishes is. So like, think about where your audience is that you're trying to attract. They're probably not on just one channel. So go fishing, find them, be where they are. That's, don't blow your brains out on weird channels unless that's where your audience is. But yeah, fish where the fishes are. There you go.
Well, I mean, that's the other
And-
thing too. I mean, it's not so also channel related. It's we all react to and seek out information in different ways, right? Some of us like to hear about it. Others of us like to, dig into the research. Others of us like to watch the videos. It's the same way. It's kind of the same way we take in information and learn. It's going to be the same way that people want to take in information and learn about your business. A whole bunch of different channels, from reading to the videos to the how-tos to the deep technical information. That's why you need all this type of content.
And not to be totally paranoid about it, but there's one channel in particular I'm thinking of right now that is doing a very good job of throwing people who are its members in jail, its own little social media jail, for a week or 30 days, now more than ever. It sounds like Facebook, by the way. And that channel, if you start to build your presence on it, and let's say some of your admins get caught of, unfortunately doing something inadvertently, and suddenly you're a little hampered by, being able to keep a channel up there, then you better have an emergency plan. You can't put all your eggs in that basket. I hate to even think about it that way, but this is the world we're living in now, where social media channels are a little bit more, we're seeing it with Twitter, we're seeing it with Facebook. We're seeing it with a few others now, where there's going to be shifts of how people think about living on these platforms now, because the freedom of speech, of what they used to have maybe 2 years ago is not the same now. And that's going to be an interesting development to watch.
I also want to kind of bring it back to Ian's conversation about analytics. And Paul, you and I talk about this
I thought
a
you were
lot.
going to say fishes.
Yeah, well, you're
Fish where the
exactly
fish
right.
is.
You need to be where your customers are. Absolutely. That is the first thing you need to think about. Where are your customers? Where are they spending time online? But what's interesting is, as they move through the customer journey, they're going to hit different channels. And we see this all the time when we're looking at the goals in the analytics. We're seeing that people may have found us initially, or our customers, from a display ad or a Facebook ad or a Google ad. And that's the first time they get on the website. But then the next time they come onto the website, it's because they found us on Google Maps. And so the Google My Business property became a key component of that. And then maybe they found us on a landing page because we did a magazine or direct mail campaign, and they hit that landing page, and then they go to the website before they convert. So we're seeing omni-channel all the time, and you need to be in all of the right places where your likely customers are going to be. Measure and track it, and analytics gives you the ability to do that.
Yeah,
And
the
I don't
customer
want
journey
Jen.
is not linear. It's a convoluted mess.
Yeah. It's like spaghetti. Jen said something that I thought was so key. I'm into analogies today, visual analogy, metaphors.
Are you
Jen
hungry?
said
This is
something
your
I
second
don't want.
food analogy today.
I'm hungry. I don't want it to get missed, because it was so important. What she was saying was, regardless of what channels you're connecting with the audience on, your goal should be to take them off those platforms into your own platform that you own. So whether it's your website, your form completions, your CRM, because I've seen companies blow their brains out with ads, and they're actually not moving them anywhere. Yeah. They're just constantly paying for ads. But what about the nurturing process, where if it takes 7 opportunities or 7 times somebody has to see you in order to make a decision, sometimes, at least that was the traditional marketing stat, then you better be darn sure that you're reaching them in different places, but you're bringing them back to what you own, because you don't own Facebook, you don't own Google, and you can't control those platforms.
Definitely. So Dan, another trend we've seen, and this is definitely not new, and we have talked about it, is Google's focus on local search, which their latest algorithms, that's been a big part of it, and they're really focused on that. So has that become more important than what we have referred to as traditional SEO for small businesses?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say the politically correct thing would be that local search is important, and that you should definitely focus on the importance of your town and how Google defines local and all that. Now I'm going to give you the Dan Gershenson version of what I think local is. I don't think there's traditional SEO anymore. I think it's all local. It's all local. It's just our definition of local has changed. We're doing local stuff right now as far as I'm concerned. The local, thanks to the last year or so, has been redefined. Google may define local as being in the town you're in, and you want to, live by that rule to some degree, because Google does make the rules as far as where you're seen locally. But locally, as far as a strategy, could be Chicago talking to someone in Oregon, and that's a local conversation. Zoom and video and some of the instant messaging that is occurring right now is changing the face of local entirely. If we think of local as only being our town, it's certainly, for me, it's redefined a lot. Before the pandemic, I think I was perfectly happy to be Chicago guy helping Chicago clients. Now I see that is fairly limiting. And in the way of our technologies that we have, shame on us if we don't explore what the boundaries of local really mean. Google will have its definition, but I don't think you have to live by that rule necessarily. I understand, some people got to have their strategies and they want to be geographically local, but brand local, that can be anywhere in the world as far as I'm concerned. I mean, that whole thing has now changed. So frankly, I really don't mean to sound like this, I'm thinking ahead of Google, but Google's just thinking about this part of local. I'm thinking about planet local, as far as, if I have the technology and I feel like I'm right around the corner and talking to you by video, that's my local. Traditional SEO, I don't even know what that is anymore. Like it's local, and then it's hyper local. That's the world that I think we are moving towards now. Is our connections are going to be so much more closer and redefined. We do not have to get in a car or do anything that is traditionally and physically how we meet and interact with people anymore. And it's going to change our businesses to be more virtual than we ever thought. So local might be a very new definition than what we've known.
I've got to jump in. I mean,
I knew you were going to. This was. I'm surprised you didn't launch out of your seat.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, I mean,
that's all right. Bring it. That's fine.
It is super important to be found when people type in a search phrase that includes a location, because that's telling Google the intent of where they're wanting to hire somebody from. And there are a whole host of businesses that operate and deliver their services or have people come to their place of business where the search results are literally triggered by somebody putting in a product or a service followed by a location, and that is local search. And that is not going to go away. That's not changing. That's not ever going to go away. And so if your business is, if you're a restaurant, if you're a roofer and you work within a 10, 20, 30 mile radius, when somebody types in roofer plus the city and it falls within that radius, that's where you want to rank, and that's where you need to leverage local SEO. And there are a whole set of different tactics that you do and priorities that you're going to assign to rank for that than if you sell products on an online store anywhere in the world. And I think that's what, we can't lose sight of the fact of that. What you're talking about, Dan, I agree wholeheartedly. Business operations, the definition of business operations and how you conduct business, the whole notion of local has been blown up. But in terms of specific search behaviors and search results, that's not going to change.
Well, it's, and I would suggest you're talking a lot about a product that usually.
I'm talking about services. Roofing is a service.
And if I were to put you each in your corners, I would say Ken is talking about marketing strategy, and Dan, you're talking about business delivery and how that's changing, exactly. And the philosophy of business is changing. But the business as a core, if you're local, you have to market local. If that's the only place, like if I'm a dentist I don't want to market to Chicago if I'm in LA, right? Whereas if I'm selling widgets all across the world or in North America, one is a marketing strategy and it's SEO, and one is delivery of a service or a product. Just to, because I think we're talking about two different things at the same time, which is confusing.
Right.
That
But I
may
thought
be,
Paul's
yeah.
question was specifically about local SEO.
Yeah, and what I would suggest, challenge, whatever, is that the way I'm not telling anyone to jump off of Google My Business. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying there are going to be certainly service-based businesses that are going to redefine what local means for them. And I think that whole notion of local now is going to be changed among marketing firms, law firms, accounting firms, a lot of different types of service-based firms. They will play by the rules of Google, and they will say, yes, we're this town and we want to be number one in the 3-pack. But that's not enough. And for them, their strategy may change so that they open their doors a little bit more now to out of state, perhaps even out of country, for what local really means for them. And
But how do you optimize for that?
And I don't think any of us disagree with what you're saying, Dan, except it is the difference between marketing a national or international business and marketing a local business. And they're two radically different strategies and techniques and different costs as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's very hard to land number one in Google for toothpicks, right? It's far easier if I only sell my toothpicks in my town. It's far easier to rank number one for toothpicks in Bradford or wherever I am. So
yeah. I mean, do what you got to do
we
to
all
make
agree.
Google happy. Do what you got to do to make Google happy. You know, to make Google happy with where you are locally.
It's not making Google happy. It's being found. We're talking about SEO being found. I mean, Paul's question was SEO. I agree with Ian. I mean, and I don't disagree with you at all, Dan. I mean, the definition and the way we need to think about doing our business is dramatically changed. Some businesses are going to be confined to deliver their services locally. Some businesses like ours, you know, most of my clients are not in St. Louis, you know, and it's been that way for a very long time. But there are different strategies on how people find us, you know, and the investment levels and the tactics and the strategies that you have to use. And I think that's the key point. If you want to be found when people are, and again, the local search is triggered when somebody types in that geographic location as a part of the search. That's a specific set of tactics that you have to do. And that's going to help you rank only in that location. And that's the critical point.
Yes, but can I jump in here? Well, okay,
yes,
so,
jump.
I mean, I'm
jump.
jumping. Yes, and I see what you're saying, Dan, because on your company's Google My Business, you can't put worldwide as your location, even though you could service everywhere in the, let's say, English-speaking world. So in that way, it's that's where that local search parameter is kind of handcuffing you a little bit, and me too.
That's what service areas are for.
Service areas,
North America, or
yes, that's right. That's right.
Well, it just means that Google My Business is less effective as a marketing channel for that type of a business. And you have to, now, if you want to be found nationally. Now, if you're okay being found nationally, but also being found locally, then Google My Business is still a really important channel, and you need to optimize it. And I think you should optimize it for the local impact. Don't try to, you know, if you're trying to get your Google My Business page to rank for when you sell toothpicks nationwide, worldwide, it ain't going to happen, you know. But again, like Ian said, if you sell toothpicks in a very small community or service area, really defined, compact geographic area, then your Google My Business page is a really important channel. So
yeah. I mean, let's say, for example, that you have a pixel on your website that you happen to see that people are coming into your business from a lot of other places outside of your local area. And are you going to necessarily turn those people away? And so I think it's the degrees of locality that we're talking about here too, is that I personally just don't, I value ranking high in my neck of the woods without question. But I think the way I think about it is definitely not to say that Google My Business or Google is, the road I thought it once was for local business, or the types of ideal clients, let's say, that I want. It's great. It's one avenue, but to what Jen was talking about, it's omni-channel. I mean, if you're splitting hairs about local and regional and traditional, look at the bigger picture of your ideal client and then see what buckets work out the best. Because I think sometimes that's where you get into some trouble.
All right. Well, the controversy will continue next week. Thank you for listening, and this is probably a good place to wrap up.
Sounds good.